What's up, everybody? Well, today I am here to bring to you another vacuum that is in my vacuum collection. And as you may have guessed it, it's another Hoover Elite. I've said this once before in many videos, but I will say it again. I'm sure a lot of you returning subscribers probably know this already, but for those of you who are just tuning in and have clicked on this video or many of my other videos for the first time, or for those of you who watch my videos without checking source material, I love Hoover Elites. They're just my most favorite vacuum of all time, and they're just the vacuums that got me into vacuums as well as vacuum collecting. And I always try to snatch one up whenever a good-looking one comes across my path. And this is an Elite I have been dying to get for the longest time possible. And now it finally presents itself to reside in my collection. What I have is a Hoover Elite 700. This was, at the time, the top-of-the-line Hoover Elite in the late 80s and early 90s, before the Elite series evolved into what it eventually become in the mid-90s into the late 2000s, before they were subsequently replaced by the Hoover Wind Tunnel. The Wind Tunnel Supreme, that is. But this was always, to me, one of the more unique Elite cleaners. Some may just look at this at a quick glance and think it's just a very unique black-colored Hoover Elite 600 with a brown outer bag. But I should preface this, even though it looks black on camera, if you get up real close to the hood on this, and if the light hits it just right, this actually is more of a dark chocolate brown color. It is very unique, but it's so dark that the hood almost looks black on camera. But it's really a nice, unique, dark chocolate brown. It's very classy looking. So anyway, I actually bought this cleaner on eBay from another vacuum collector, and he has his own YouTube channel, is known as Vacuum Lover 1. I will link his channel in the description box of this video, so if you guys want to see his videos, go ahead and check him out. But anyway, I bought this vacuum off that very seller. And me being the Elite connoisseur, I had to add something like this into my collection. But anyway, let's go ahead and give a walkthrough of the cleaner. This being one of the more top-of-the-line Elite machines, it does have, like I said, a very unique color scheme to the cleaner. One thing I did notice on these is the bag topper, the top and the bottom piece, are actually, if I'm not mistaken, in the same dark chocolate brown color to match the hood, with a nice brown outer bag with the same diagonal stripe texture that all of the other Elites of the time had. And it has a nice lettering up top here that says Hoover Deluxe Top Fill Bag System. And the zipper to get access to your bag is actually on the right side of the cleaner, which is a thing for early Elites before they added the tools that were mounted on the side. And this zipper would eventually move over to the left for clearance reasons. But early Elites did have their zippers on the right side. And here is the bag I'm running in this. It is a generic HEPA Hoover Type A bag, and it filters much better than even the genuine paper A bags do of the time. And they just really do wonders as far as filtration, because a while ago when I was very little, I remember these soft outer bags were the Hoovers that always spew dust back into the air. And that's partly due to the low filtration bags. But these soft bags acted as a filter. And when all that dust builds up, it has to find its way out somewhere. So usually they spew dust back into the air. But now that high filtration bags are introduced, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So down here, you do have your stair cleaning handle that you could hold right here to clean the carpeted stairs. And coming down here, we do have the early square hood design to all of these Hoover Elites of the time. And this is the same style that they use on the Elite 600. But one big difference that this has over the 600 is this has 6-position carpet height adjustment. Initially, I thought that wasn't possible, because I thought these last few were just the section where you slide it all the way over to the top setting, but no. These are actually notched settings. So you have more carpet height adjustment out of this than you do even the Elite 600, which that one has the typical 1, 2, 3, slide it all the way over to the 4th setting. But no, this actually has 6 carpet height adjustments. But I always like to leave it in the 3rd for the pile of this carpet, and it works just fine. And you also notice the carpet height adjustment knob is very similar to that of a Hoover Legacy, with it being all wide and all. Another thing I do like about these early square hood designs, and the Elite 600 was the same way, is the headlight lens. As you can see, it's kind of molded and curved into the style points of the top of the hood, which is very unique. And here, right here, you have your Hoover Elite 700 lettering on the front, and brushed edge cleaning on both sides. Your Hoover symbol right up here, which may be a little hard to see because it is a little bit worn off over the years, but it's still there. So now let's go ahead and tip the machine back to show you the underside. Underneath, it does have a genuine replacement dual row brush roll. This is not the original brush roll that this came with. More likely than not, this would have came with a red bristle dual row brush roll, but my guess is the brush roll was unfortunately worn down, so they had to find a genuine replacement. But this was the one they have. You can notice it has these cutout notches for later years when they had the 3 extra ingest bars besides this nice center one down the middle, which in my opinion leaves much better carpet lines with this design than the 3-bar one. But it still actually leaves good lines even with this newer genuine style brush roll that has the cutouts right there. In my opinion, it kind of gives it like the look of almost a poor man's oblique brush roll, even though the brushes aren't really spread out across the entire brush roll. But that's kind of the way I see it. I am in a debate whether or not I want to find a more period correct brush roll, or at least find one that doesn't have the cutouts. But this works okay for the time being. And the bristles are nice and stiff, that it definitely agitates very good. So I'm not too concerned about that. But maybe just one of these days I'll replace it for for originality's sake. But anyway, let's go ahead and turn this thing on its back to show you the model number. You will notice right here on the tag, this little UL logo is chopped off. And one thing I would like to note about that is that Hoover from the factory has a tendency to chop off the UL logos if they have cleaners that were factory remanufactured, which leads me to believe that this very Elite 700 at the time was probably factory remanufactured. So that's very interesting. So the model of this is U4511-900, 120 volts, 60 hertz. This has a 6.7 amp motor, which was the highest amperage you can get on these at the time. It's basically almost 7 amps like the later years would go to. But this is bag type A. The belt part number is 38528-027. The serial for this is 0490, which means this was made in April of 1990 for the Hoover Company of North Canton, Ohio, for household use only, made in the USA. That is one thing I love about these old Hoovers, is that they are all US made. And one other nice thing to note about the motor is that even though like I said, it's 6.7 amps, so you definitely have much better performance, but the fan that's in this is the original 9-bladed fan. You heard me right, 9-bladed fan. So it definitely draws a little bit more airflow than the 7-blade replacement fan that they would eventually come out with in the later years when they upgraded to the 7-amp motor. But it's nice that this still has it. But one thing I definitely know that is not original is this cord. This, as you can tell by the plug end, is definitely a replacement cord. Further to that, this was actually cut and spliced in by the previous owner. And I believe they did a very good job in cutting and splicing this cord. Mostly to keep it as original as it can look with the white cord and all. Because a lot of the replacement Elite cords that you can get for these are usually the black cords, which, not gonna lie, it would look nice on this vacuum given the color scheme and all, but I love that the previous owner went through the trouble of cutting and splicing this white cord, which I want to believe is for a Hoover convertible. But cutting and spliced it to the original plug end that plugs down into the motor, probably because the original one was frayed. So to try and keep it as period correct, this is the replacement cord that came on it. So that was a very nice thing to do. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to the running portion of this, which I'm sure is what you guys have been wanting to see the whole time. So let's go ahead and release this cord, which I do believe is in about a 30-foot range. So let's go ahead and plug this guy in. And then we will go ahead and turn this thing on and give you a demo of it running. Now, typical Elite fashion, these things are very loud when they're running, so headphone users or those with sensitive hearing, I would advise turning down your volume for this portion of the video. So, and here is the power switch on this, which is a plastic rod that runs down into where our main rocker switch is in the valley of the motor. Typical Elite setup with it being down here. But here we go. It's propelling itself. Very nice running cleaner. I'm not too sure if the motor may need a little work done to it, but eventually I'll get around to doing that. But sounds and runs pretty good for the time being. And I will go ahead and show you the attachment converter that came separate from these Elites back in the day. So let's go put it all the way to the top, but basically how these Elites got attachments back then was there was a special converter that attaches on the bottom of the cleaner. But because of the vacuum's direct air design, it is not known to produce that much suction. These things are better known for airflow than suction. And as you can hear, definitely a lot of suction leakage. But so it wasn't really the most ideal setup for these Hoover cleaners back then. Not just the Elites, but the convertibles and the Concept 1s had their version. But for the Elite, that's why they eventually would update to the later design that would come with an onboard hose and tools. But it's quite interesting the way this thing is set up. It just... Ladybug. It just has a nice little twist lock connection similar to that on the canisters. Which, speaking of canisters, you could actually use late canister attachments as long as they have the little twist lock. So you just simply attach it in, line the tab, and then twist counterclockwise to lock. And that is how they attach. And here are the late model attachments. You have here a upholstery tool, crevice tool, dusting brush. The early style, the upholstery tool would look like this. And here's its extension wand. Just kind of give you an idea of how the attachment system worked on these back in the day. Well, everybody, hope you've enjoyed this full house cleaning of the Hoover Elite 700. Be sure and stay tuned, and don't forget to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.